Ever since its introduction to market back in 1993, Ducati's Monster has been revered as a modern-day classic and a bike responsible for rekindling the manufacturer's image globally. But fast forward more than 2 decades and the Monster badge today stands for even more, with new derivatives including the learner-legal 659. So what's the lowdown with this thing? Well, I can tell you at $12,990, it's definitely not cheap. Actually, that makes it one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, learner legal bike on the Australian market. But you do get a fair bit of kit for that sort of money. This thing is definitely legit. It's made in Ducati's factory in Italy and gets all the go-fast parts that some of the larger Monsters get as well. Things such as these massive Brembo brakes on the front, hooked up with braided lines, as well as upside down forks and a pipe that runs under the seat. Now at the heart of this machine is in fact a sleeved down version of the larger 696 Monster. In this guise it produces 38 kilowatts of power. Like the larger 696, the V-twin engine is air-cooled and fuel-injected and comes mated with a 6-speed transmission. However, power is down considerably when you pair the two side by side. And that's due to a fairly rudimentary little device right here on the side of the fuel injector body that actually physically stops the throttle from going past a certain point. But luckily, you wouldn't be able to pick this thing as being restricted as an outsider because it sounds completely authentic. Now the V-twin engine in this thing is pretty easy to come to terms with. Like other V-twins, it can be a little bit rumbly and shaky at low revs, but from about 4,000 RPM it seems to get a second wind and revs out cleanly all the way to its redline. The matching 6-speed transmission is a fairly effective unit as well, though it's far from perfect. The shift itself isn't as well lubricated as some of the larger Monsters, and I also found myself hitting the odd false neutral as well. But it works and there's a decent spread of ratios in there. Now backing up all those reserves of torque are powerful Brembo brakes front and rear. As we mentioned before, they use braided lines and the monoblock calipers themselves are really powerful as well. The most effective thing is that they're progressive, so you're not likely to go over the hangers. As well as being intuitive, the brakes are aided by ABS technology, one of the few learner bikes on the market to do so. While I might be a little bit down on power, I'm happy to report that the 659 definitely rides like an authentic Monster. It only weighs 179 kilos wet and, teamed with a short proportion, lends itself to being a really easy bike to come to terms with through corners. Due to that lightness and the overall stumpy proportions, it's really easy to throw into a corner, and teamed with the standard Pirelli Angel tyres front and rear, there's plenty of mid-corner grip through the twisty stuff. Now one of the real highlights for this thing is actually its ergonomics. I'm not all that tall, 175 centimetres, but for my height, it actually feels really comfortable. You're sort of hunched over without putting too much weight on the wrists, and there's enough room for me between the seat and the foot peg. But the same probably can't be said for larger riders who might find that distance a little bit too restrictive. There isn't too much to fault with the 659. If anything, the heat that emanates from its underseat exhaust can become a little bit uncomfortable in heavy traffic, plus it lacks some of the key standard equipment and overall attention to detail as larger Monsters. Smaller things such as the adjustable traction control settings and different riding modes. Despite being a learner bike, the 659 bears all the hallmarks of the Monster range. It's a really easy machine to learn your craft on, and it offers a similar buzz to larger machines. The only real restriction with this thing is its price.